Today's guest is Ann Lopez Wagner, who has been an entrepreneur in Honduras since 2012. She had a career in finance and consulting before starting her own wine retail technology and coaching businesses. High achiever by nature, she has been able to switch careers and break the mold in every aspect of her life, redesigning patterns of thinking and improving the lives of the people around her. So, Leanne, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm just excited to be here.
Absolutely. This is I'm excited to get into it too, because I know we had spoken about a few different things, before we went live. And, one of them was this sense of like shiny object syndrome. I'm always kind of like diluting my focus and I'm kind of going all over the place. And then of course, when I read your bio, it's like you've done all of these like great things. They're, so varied in terms of like without context. So I'd love for you to just kind of dive into who you are, how you got to doing all of these things. Like, floor is yours for that.
Well, thank you for opening the floor for me. Actually, writing the bio down, it's quite a challenge because when I see in hindsight everything that feels like an achievement, it's kind of hard to realize how you got there and what are the next steps. Because if everyone sees you from the outside, it's like I'm this high achiever, but the fact that it's not easy to believe that within yourself for you to go to the next steps, that makes it hard. But actually, I was never a visionary kind of person if I think about it. I just went with what was the next thing to do. So if it was first my career, then my master's, then a banking job, then like following a certain path and achieving the best in that path is what kept me moving forward. So when I decided to become an entrepreneur, it was actually a family decision. So jumping from finance in the banking area to working as a consultant in the finance market was actually a decision of time because my baby kid was about a year and a half when I made the decision. So it was a personal move in order for me to get like more free time to be with him. Then one challenge led to the other. And I believe I just like challenges. They keep me going. So I'm always after the next challenge. So when something comes up and it resonates with me, if it was the wine company or the technology company, I would just dive into it. And then see what the next new thing was. So that's how I came up to here 20 years later, just realizing I have a diverse career without actually thinking about it 20 years ago. So it's just working, moving, and the spirit of not letting myself down, I think.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think like as you're talking, what comes up for me internally is like number one, that like Steve Jobs quote where he talks about like you can only connect the dots when you're looking backwards. So like
Absolutely.
if you were to predict this, 20 years ago, it's like, yeah, that's so randomly, there's no way. But looking backwards, like it all makes sense because it was the like next sequential step in
Mhm.
whatever it was that made sense at the time. Um, and then the other part that also comes to mind, because again, I work with a lot of high achievers. A lot of high achievers come onto this podcast and in many ways actually share the same sentiment of, yeah, I just interested in a lot of things. I do a lot of different things. I do them well. I move on to the next thing, etc. It's like there's usually like a recognition moment that like sometimes that can be distorted into not necessarily a weakness, but something that works against me in certain contexts. And again, if that resonates for you, we can certainly dive into that. But I think the other part that I want to stress, even before we go into that, is like in all of these qualities, there's an inherent gift, right? Like it's a gift to be able to be so multivariate and to do so many different things and do them well. Like that's not something to hate on by any means. It's more if that quality doesn't suit what the next thing you want to do, or it's somehow distorting where you might need to look, then it's a matter of eliminating that portion of it or reconciling that portion of it. It's not necessarily I got to eliminate this thing that's actually worked well for me up until this time. So I know that was a lot thrown your way. What resonates, what doesn't?
Well, it actually resonates because I had a conversation recently about what leadership was and what it meant to me. And that got me thinking, well, actually, do I want to be a leader or what kind of leader do I want to be? So am I the kind of person who really wants to be stressed out all the time? I'm definitely not. I've worked for that in the past 5 years, like releasing work, delegating, moving to the next business once this one's already in shape and with someone in charge. So I'm trying to figure out what's resonating with me is I'm trying to figure out what kind of leader I want to be. And the word kind of leader also bugs me a little bit because it's, do I really have to define that? So my mind always goes back to, do I really need to define it? Do I really need to define it? Or should I just move forward? So kind of click something in there.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that's actually a perfect segue to dive into like the coaching bit of it. So does it resonate with you to dive into that, or did you have
Yeah,
something else? You did.
sure.
Okay, perfect.
It resonates because it's scary. So it does.
Okay. Well, then I commend you for diving into the scary piece. So, I guess because you asked multiple questions, right? So do I need to define what leadership is? What kind of leader do I want to actually be? Am I even one that wants to be a leader, right? And then there's like again, there's something scary about that umbrella of questions. So let's dive into the last one. Like what is scary, or why is it scary for you?
It is scary because I believe my whole life that was the purpose. I thought I wanted to be a leader. I was raised to be a CEO. I studied to be a CEO. So that was like the big aspiration. So now that I am the CEO of 4 companies and maybe judging myself or analyzing how I'm doing the job, I get into a crossroad, is it really what I want? Because there's characteristics all around the place about leadership and positive leadership and how you should manage your teams. And not all of them actually resonate with me. I'm kind of more of a creative person. I create a project, get it done, put the bases together, accounting, sales, everything, and then I usually move on. But I get stuck in the feeling of, should I still be in the team directly, even though I don't like the micromanaging everyday operations of it? And does that make me a good leader or not? So it's the questioning about the role I think I want to play. And maybe it's not the question of what I want. Maybe I'm clear about what I want, but it's how am I going to feel about it if I walk away? Kind of. Does that make any sense? I rambled a
Uh,
lot.
it's okay. No, I think it's actually moving in the direction that it needs to move, right? And especially that last bit of like, maybe I am clear about the kind of mental model I have around leadership, but I'm unclear about the feeling. And the reason that I bring that up is I essentially asked you, okay, so what is scary about this thing, right? And where your brain went to was basically giving me a good breakdown of your, understanding of leadership, how you've seen yourself in leadership, how, the consequences of like whatever decisions you might make, what the like very
Yeah.
well articulated, beautifully said. And right, your brain skirted the original question, which was essentially what was so scary about it. So what lands for you with that?
The scary part is if I discover I'm not meant to be this good leader as maybe as stereotyped in my mind, what's next?
Okay. And how does it feel to vocalize that?
Like I would have worked, I don't know if it's scary or just disappointing in a way, because I've worked my whole life to be a leader. Hypothetically, now I'm doing it, but if I'm doing it wrong and I have to step out of it, it might it might deconstruct some of the value that it's been so hard to build up for me.
Okay. So there's a lot of stakes in exploring this. So I can understand exactly why there would be hesitation, why your brain would distract you away from the original question. So that makes sense. And then you mentioned, okay, so I'm not really sure kind of like what's the flavor of this feeling? Like, is it disappointment or is it fear? So now that you've articulated a bit more, what's the actual, is it more disappointment? Is it fear? Is it something in between? What lands for you?
Actually the initial feeling is relief. that,
Okay.
that's that's kind of relieving. um yeah, it's a bit of relief and what's the word, um even though it's not knowing what's next, kind of be relieved of all the pressure or expectations of a leader actually makes me feel kind of better.
Okay. So there's a part of you that was afraid to dive into this. But if you're feeling relief right now, there was also a part of you that's been carrying a lot of pressure around what this may or may not mean. And it seems like just you vocalizing it allowed you to tap into that. So again, before I go on, what's landing for you there?
Oof. Acceptance, acceptance is the latest word in my mind in the past couple of weeks. So it's like, what am I not accepting? That's what's coming up to my mind right now. What is it that I'm not accepting?
So great question. Well, what are you not accepting?
Oh, I'm not accepting that I need to evaluate it. I'm not accepting that I need to evaluate, maybe because I feel I'm already in these leadership shoes. So if I evaluate it, it might bring a lot of risk, as you said. Not that I don't know I can handle it, because I know I could. It's just, I don't know. The work that will come with it doesn't sound like it. It's just, I think I'll stick with the first part. I don't want to accept that I need to reevaluate the leadership issue for me.
Okay. So I need to evaluate it in your mind being defined as my leadership up until this point. My definitions, my relationship to it, my execution of it, what's next for my like the whole thing is it. Is that accurate for you?
Yeah, that is it. For me, leadership comes inherently with the amount of companies I have. So do I need to be a leader, or do I have to accept that maybe I'm not the right fit for the whole companies, but I have to play this is the role I'm good at, and I don't have to be determined by a title of leader, CEO, etc. Could
Okay.
it be attached to the title? Maybe that's coming up for me right now.
Okay. So when I have clients that are kind of at this type of crossroads, right? Because what you're basically defining is an identity crossroad. Like, who am I in the context of the business,
Hmm.
right? Hey,
Yeah.
before I go on, does that resonate with you as far as what this is all about?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, who am I in the context of the business for established business owners like yourself? So, not people just starting out that are kind of like, I need to do everything to get moving, but
Mhm.
you have things in place already.
Yeah.
Then with that comes an evolution of your role in whatever the next thing is. So, is this more about, do I have what it takes to step into that next role? Or is it, if I step into whatever's next, it means giving up certain things or letting go of certain things and moving into other areas where I'm not seen as whatever might be? Like, there's kind of various different directions you can go. Where's it
Mhm.
landing most for you?
Wow, I have to say both, but mostly the second, because by now I know that my actual role with all the people in place and the teams working on by themselves, I know that I've done a good job. I just wonder a little bit if it could be better if I was more present.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think would be the second one, because as if I walk a little bit away from this, if no, the other way around. If I come back to this, companies that are already working and making what they have to do, I won't be able to do the next thing. So it's kind of, I don't know. Maybe the second one resonates the most, even though I
Okay.
can't put it in words.
So, and that was gonna actually be my question. How, like, in your words that resonate with you, how would you define that? Like, as a problem, as an issue, as a challenge? Like, how would you define that?
A challenge. Actually, my actual challenge. My actual challenge. I've actually walked away from the running businesses, and I'm focusing in the ones that are newer. Um, But in that aspect, since they are new, I do wonder if I have what it takes. I've done it before, plenty of times. I know there's a good outcome on it. but I'm doubting if I have what it takes or if it's safer to just stick with with doing better what I already do instead of following the shiny object ahead of me.
Got it. So my challenge is wondering if I have what it takes, doubting if I have what it takes. So if you had to, so okay, why don't we do it like this? So my challenge is, and then you fill in the blank.
My challenge is if I have what it takes to move forward with the new companies.
Okay. And how does it feel vocalizing that?
Horrible.
Okay.
Yeah,
So define
horrible.
horrible. What do you exactly mean by horrible?
Well, I hate doubting myself. I do it all the time, but it's a feeling that I always try to fight back. I mean, when the doubt comes, I'll just find the energy, the tools to just move forward. And I do know that how I face these challenges are always just taking the next step. No matter if it's big or small, I'll just take the next step and the results will start coming. Right. So I kind of know what I need to do next in order to not feel like this regarding the feeling, right? And I try not to stick too long with the feelings because I know the consequences. But the thing is, I'm coming back to it.
Yeah,
Right? You can see that, right?
100%. So what I call this with my clients, it's doubt 2.0.
Oh,
And what I mean by doubt 2.0, like I know you're familiar with doubt. Obviously, that's why you can point to it and be like, yeah, I know what
yeah.
this is. But the reason why I say it's doubt 2.0 is, again, when working with established business owners, right, that there's a shift that happens from, there was a point in my life where like I just kind of hustled my way to success. I did whatever needed to be done. If there was a problem, I kind of like ran through it. Like you said, I do the next thing, I do the next thing, I do the next thing,
Yeah.
which is great for getting to a certain level of success, right? Where you are right now, it's like, okay, I have teams, I have other people, I have leverage, and you at the top of that leverage now creates a lot of ripple effects. So now the doubt isn't just kind of concentrated around what you do. The doubt seeps to all these other things and has all this ripple effects that can negatively affect a lot of different people and a lot of different things. So now the stakes are a lot higher. They don't just involve you, they don't just involve like your livelihood. It's bigger. And that's a whole different thing than just pushing through and doing what you've done before to overcome this part of yourself. And more often than not, what I find in these instances is all of the things that cause your initial doubt, beyond just like, okay, I don't know how to do this thing. So obviously you're going to doubt yourself and you figure it out. But I'm just saying like that inherent doubt of like, can I do this? So all of the things that you might have overlooked around that because you just worked your way through it now come to the surface again because it's even scarier for those parts of yourself. Everything's bigger, the stakes are higher. If I lose, more people are affected. I'm more visible in the failure. Like everything is like the volume is louder on everything,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
again, before I go on, what's landing with you with this whole doubt 2.0?
Oof. Couple of things. The the circling back makes me uncomfortable because I'm used to overcoming things. And then when I've overcome them, they don't come back because they were already overcome. So the fact that I'm circling back to something just kind of a new insight into why, but actually I don't like to be an overthinker because I know how it sets me back. So it feels like a struggle, at this moment, just at this precise moment. It's like I want to think about it, but I don't want to think about it because I know where it can take me. So maybe the scary part is not knowing where it can take me. I'm not willing to go back in order to move forward.
Correct. So there's a few, I think, factors that are creating that inner, like, ugh, this sucks. I don't want to be here. Right. Number one, the mirror is shine very bright. Like it's when we think about these things by ourselves, it's very easy to get distracted because like you literally saw that at the beginning, right? I asked you, how do you feel about this? Your brain went into this beautiful discussion about something else. It all
Yeah.
made sense, beautifully articulated. It was relevant, and it had nothing to do with what the actual issue was. So that's a defense that our especially smart people always take unknowingly when it comes
Mm.
to these things. So now when it's reversed and you have the mirror shine back at you, it's like, I got nowhere to go, right?
Mhm.
Because somebody's always bringing you back. So that's number one. It's normal for that to be uncomfortable. It's what I told you off air. It's like a lot of people say in your position they want to do this work, and then when the lights actually go bright, that's when things change. So number one, I want to acknowledge you for that. Number two, the repetition, right? What I call like that hamster wheel. That's the
Mhm.
biggest indicator that the tools you used to overcome this in the past no longer serve you at this level. Because essentially, like even now, the block for you is not a mental block. You have all the answers. You are very well aware of yourself. Like this is not anything earth-shatteringly new intellectually, but feeling wise, there's this like, I don't know what to do here. And it keeps coming back and it's extremely frustrating, right? So as they say, like you can't outthink an emotional problem. And that's essentially what this is. It requires a different set of tools than the tools that actually got you here. And why that's important is when you can reconcile the emotional aspect of this, it's your emotions that actually trigger you to act, right? Like you gotten good at using anxiety and doubt to fuel action, but now that that action is no longer working, I don't know what else to do, right? So it's a matter of taking the charge out of that doubt so you have a clean slate to make the best decision you can with all the smarts and the business acumen you've accumulated so far. So again, I know that's a lot. What's landing? What is it?
Oh, what's landing right now is it used to take longer to achieve whatever it was in the path, right? And now I'm feeling it's taking a shorter amount of time, even though if it's a shiny object I'm going after, the new best thing, actually takes me a shorter time to do it. So I I kind of feel, wow, like like in a space area, like in the middle of areas, if that makes any sense. Like achievements already achieved, the future, I know it's unknown, I know what I should do, but it's like this gray area where I'm resting enough, I'm feeling good about my habits and my routines, but I can't quite identify that, even if moving forward is the actual, what moving forward actually means, what does it look like anymore?
Yeah. And if you don't have clarity, it's very hard to lead.
There you go, clarity. That's it. Yeah, it's, I want to believe I have clarity, but it just comes and goes. I mean,
Correct.
I might have a wonderful flow day and energy is just flowing and things are getting done and moving, and then I'll have like this desert kind of moment, and then I'll come up out of it, and all of these doubts start coming up. So it might not even be questioning leadership, that might be just one thing that came up. It's just the whole space in which I feel I am actually.
Correct. And I actually think that nuance is relevant for you. It's not necessarily that you have a leadership issue. You actually have a broader clarity issue that's showing up in your leadership, right? Like
Yeah,
it's hard to be an effective leader if you don't know where you're leading to, right?
totally.
Then it's like, let me just do something because like I gotta like people are looking at me, so like I gotta do something, right? And I know it sounds silly, but like so many business owners get into that spot, and it's that 2.0 spot. Everything that worked before is no longer working because the skills that got me here are different than the skills that are going to get me there. And that's like the leadership 2.0, right?
Mhm.
So again, what lands for you with that?
Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Clarity was the word. It's not that I don't know it. So now I'm wondering why it didn't come up. at the beginning, just the things that I don't want to accept. So that gets me like, why? Why wouldn't I accept honestly to myself that I have no clarity at the moment? What is it? And that's the part of the blockages that I'm trying to work on, but I invest more time, more courses, more money, more action, but it's still like in that gray area, not moving, like a fog. That's what I feel.
Correct. Right. And even that, and this is how a lot of like business owners that I talk with stay on that hamster wheel for a long time. Right. I mean, I'm talking like with you, but it's kind of like to the audience as well here. When you don't have clarity, then like every shiny thing looks like it could be the answer. Oh, I got to do the latest funnel hack. Maybe if I join this mastermind and I network better. Oh, maybe like what I really need to do is add like this thing to my business and like this membership or like whatever like your business is, right? But it's like that's actually the form that solutions can take if you know what problem you're solving for. So the real core issue is, okay, what's blocking me internally to have the clarity around what am I enthusiastic about? What am I passionate about at this stage of the business in my evolution? What am I actually working towards? When you have that clarity and that self-assuredness that yes, this is what it's about, and I've removed what I call the leadership limits to get to that answer, it's generally pretty easy to choose the next step. You're like, okay, no, I don't need another funnel. Like what I just need is X.
Mhm.
So what lands for you there?
More doubt, actually. More doubt, more doubt,
Okay.
more not knowing, more not even knowing what lands actually, or if
Okay.
it anything lands.
And I appreciate the honesty because like it's not easy to be in the space of I don't know. Again, like we said, especially for somebody who needs to make decisions. So I acknowledge you for that. So I think that's a much deeper discussion on like how do we get to your own sense of clarity because it involves diving into so many different things that are like beyond the scope of this episode. But if we take that as like, okay, this is the biggest roadblock that I have right now, and you zoom out from that, look at things more globally, like how is this impacting or affecting your business or your businesses?
Oh, it's completely slowing it down because I know that with a few tweaks here and there, a few decisions here and there, things just roll out nicely and perfectly. So the fact that I'm not clear about it um, makes me doubt if the decisions I make are on the right direction. And I don't like to doubt that because decisions are decisions. You can just change it every whatever moment you have to, right? So you're good.
Not my first rodeo, so yeah, thank you.
You're good. You're good. I'm liking this a lot because it's not usual for me to have silent spaces where my mind always has an answer
Correct.
forever. So it is, even though it's hard to not have an answer, I have to admit that I don't have it as fluidly as I wish.
Yep. And that's generally what happens when, and I mentioned it before, you're just seeing another context again, when you're just using the wrong tool for the job.
Hmm.
This is about going in, reconciling, healing, deleting unnecessary emotional things that are probably working under the surface that are just blocking the perspective that would give you the clarity that you want. Right. Because if this, like if all it took was like your strategic mind to solve this, we wouldn't have this conversation. Like you know more than enough to be able to navigate that.
I
Right.
agree. The thing
But
I'm having sorry,
no,
not
go
have,
ahead.
this is what's coming up. I usually have a blockage or a problem, and I'm able to tackle everything I can look at, and I will know how to tackle it. So what's coming up for me is I don't know what I'm tackling.
Correct. You can't change what you can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So welcome to the wonderful world of leadership 2.0. So
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
yeah, I'm sure this is exactly the fun you wanted on a on a Monday
No,
afternoon.
actually, it has to be like this because otherwise, I mean, it's not a typical coaching session. I mean, you go out there and you're supposed to know everything, and every time someone questions you, you feel like you're judged. But this is actually the kind of awkwardness that we have to push forward with in order to take the next step, whatever that looks like, or just take away the feeling that, how there's people that are okay with where they are, and I know I'm not that kind of person. I'm never just okay. I mean, I can decide where I'm okay with relationships, kids, parenting, that. And I can see when I'm just something's challenging me and that need to go and, bring the challenge down.
Correct. So I mean, it's more of a like a generalized thing, but like that's the difference between being like told or taught something and the difference between having a mirror shined your way,
Mm.
right? Like many of my clients financially are a lot more successful than I am, right? But they don't pay me to give them advice on the things they already know,
Mhm.
right? My gift is in the mirror.
Mm.
And that's why the transformations that happen are so lasting, right? Because it's not like you hear many like one of my big quirks is like accountability. I'll keep you accountable to do the things you need to do. Well, the only lasting accountability that ever works is self accountability. So my question is always, okay, well, what's in your way to be self-accountable as a successful person? Like you're an adult, you don't need me to check in with you if you did the things you said you were going to do. So that's number one. And usually that there's some sort of like subconscious protective mechanism there. But anyway, I know it's not your issue, so I don't want to go there. But just to reflect back to you, it's like when you can look at the blind spots, like I said, then you can change things that you can actually start to see for the first time. And when you heal those things and you eliminate the patterns that are no longer necessary, oftentimes stemming from something that happened in your past, it's like you have a clean slate to be able to do what you inherently know how to do. Right. And that's really this whole process of like revealing, healing, and then eliminating the pattern. It's what is it? Why is it not needed anymore? And then how can we remove it, like delete it from your life so that you can just have a clean slate to not carry this baggage that you can't even see. So
Mhm.
again, what lands for you with that?
The past, actually, I've worked a lot in my past issues, and I've managed, I believe, to know where they come from and my leadership style, if that's even a thing. I know where it comes from. My first work experiences were not very nice. I didn't have like great leaders on me, so I have like this burden to be a better leader. But being a better leader is not, I mean, it's not the only thing that makes companies and revenues and everything be better. I mean, it has to be a whole package, right? I already know that. So I actually don't know if these past, I won't call it trauma, but experiences might still be um, like buried down there. I wouldn't like to believe it either, right? Because I've come to so far from that now. So I don't know if I want to go into that actually, or just might be something else. I mean, at times I say I don't have the time to go into that again. So I just need to figure out a new way or just be different and do it all over.
Correct. Yeah, and I agree with that. It's like if we don't need to rehash the past to move forward, what's the point of going back to the past? I'm 110% in support of that. The only nuance I would add to it is, and again, I don't know for sure, so this is more of a generalized statement, but it's like when it comes to those things, they're very contextual, meaning oftentimes I'll have clients that let's just say people pleasing comes up in various different ways, right? So you overcome various aspects of people pleasing in your relationships, but then when it comes to vendors and clients and employees, like you sometimes say, yes when you feel no, or you don't, go into confrontation, or you don't say the whole thing, like whatever it manifests as. But it's like, okay, well, how is that still an issue if I've overcome people pleasing? So
Mm,
the core wounding that, say, got you to repeat people pleasing type tendencies, you might have healed in relationships, but the ripple effects of it might not have been deleted in the context of business,
mm,
right? So it's not necessarily all the work I've done before is like useless and I got to go rehash it. Like, not at all. You should celebrate all the work you've done before. It's a matter of, like you said, what's repeating that
mm.
looks like this pattern that I need to eliminate to go forward where the next thing is, right? So again, what lands for you there?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I hadn't seen it like that. You know, if something goes wrong, then everything is wrong, and I have to rework everything. And that's kind of the internal battle I have. I mean, if it's not working in the company, it means that I haven't done the yes and the no's correctly, instead of saying I haven't done them completely yet. So this is settled, so I'll move to this kind of approach, kind of way.
Correct. It's kind of like that idea of, like, you're never stepping into the same river twice.
Mm.
Like, even if you go to the same like river, it's still a different river because the water that's flowing is different than the last time you were there. So it's just kind of like a similar idea. I'm like, why am I revisiting? Well, I'm revisiting this because it's like actually showing up in a different way, right?
Mm.
And I wish it
Oh,
was different because then I could package it into a pill and like work a
yeah,
lot less and charge a lot more. But
and work a
that's how
lot
these things work.
less. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I tag myself as a really uh, positive person, not in the sick way of positive thinking, but in the productive way of positive thinking. So I don't let my mind do the negative talk anymore as I used to in the beginning of my career. Um, I just don't want to be a prey to over confidence is not the word of over believing that I'm there already. So I'm an eager learner, I'm an eager doer, eager achiever. So when I kind of feel I'm in the trap of I'm doing okay and everything's gonna be okay, then automatically it's like, no, 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 it can't be because I'll be settling. And settling is not part of my vocabulary.
Got it. And historically, are you more comfortable in working through chaos or working through peace?
Ooh, chaos. I shine at chaos. I mean,
Right.
you bring me a problem and I'll have the solution in 2.0 seconds.
So if you now rewind back our whole conversation, it's essentially saying I'm in this state right now where I've got multiple businesses. From everything you've shared, it sounds like these businesses are doing pretty well. Like, there's no like major fires that are like, I'm going to go bankrupt. Like, I'm in a good spot. So you're essentially a peacetime CEO right now.
Yeah,
And your nervous system, so which is like where your actions and your emotions are going to come from, are freaking out because there's no actual problem to solve,
yeah.
right?
That resonates. That resonates. Yeah.
So how can you have clarity when you've spent your whole life in subconscious reinforcing that I need fires and problems to actually be effective, move forward, and quote unquote not settle?
Ooh, like that comes easy. That gave me value.
Yeah,
I'm I'm
value
the
and
I'm
significance.
the person, I'm the go-to person to solve big deals.
Correct. And there is your evolution now as a business person.
Yeah.
How do you heal the parts of you that need chaos? Because if you don't do this, then at some point you're going to either settle until a problem just arises naturally, or there's a subconscious part that's going to create a problem because, oh, now I'm valuable, now I'm significant. So it's like there's a party that's chasing fires all the time to put out. So your
Yeah.
healing is going to be, how do I be okay with that while still being ambitious and create the next thing from peace, not from chaos? That's a
Yeah.
beautiful spot to be in. It's like weird because you can't find your footing now, but it's a beautiful spot to be in general.
That's why I got into coaching, you know. It's a passionate, purposeful, fulfilling career. It was not about the personal healing, although it does a lot for that part. but it's actually that part that ignites my fire to serve and uh, to rest in the peace that everything else is taken care of. But this is a way also of like completing that cycle of serving through peace and not chaos kind of way. So that's what I love about coaching, and I believe I was a natural on it too. But I'm liking the part of bringing it in from a perspective of peace for my clients, you know?
Correct. So, and you're going to serve them best from that area, right? Because you don't want to work with clients that are in crisis all the time. Like, that's going to be extremely draining for you.
Oh, but
So,
it's been challenging, you know. That's a good observation because it's been challenging when clients are just okay. So it has been challenging not to work them through chaos, but work them through their own.
correct. Because you can only take like clients where you've been. And
Mhm.
your subconscious, your nervous system freaks out, ironically, when it's peaceful.
It it does. That's a beautiful way to put it. Thank you. Yeah. It
Yeah.
freaks out. There's no chaos. Totally.
Yeah. So the good news about this is your evolution will yield the same, if not better, results in terms of growth, but with a lot less chaos. And that's why I keep reinforcing to you, like, this is a beautiful spot to be in. Because when you begin to heal those things, not only because, again, clarity, there's no problem to solve, therefore I can't have clarity, which
Mhm.
in a sense means I don't have clarity in who I am in peace.
Yes. Yes, and yes, and yes.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Yeah, that's it. I'm
Beautiful.
writing
So
it down. That's what you do know because
yeah, write it the way whatever resonates with you. Feel free to write that down.
oh, yeah, I'm loving this. Just to hear it from a different perspective.
Beautiful. So again, I know we can't dive into all of this in one, session, especially in this type of context. But as far as just like mapping out what the issue is in front of you right now, does this feel complete for you? Or is there still something left outstanding?
No, it feels complete at the moment. I mean, I felt the release in my chest when you said clarity and heal from chaos. That resonated a lot. Um,
Perfect. So in that case, why don't you just take a moment and kind of like summarize whatever you want, like your biggest aha moments, your biggest realizations, just kind of put it in your own words.
mm. Well, I want to thank myself for diving into this because it was scary to do it. So I want to thank myself for doing that because even though I didn't know or don't know what the blockages are, or if they are blockages at all, I believe my intuition has this powerful effect and showing me the way and not blaming myself for the shiny object syndrome I believe I have. So that's one thing. The lack of clarity, acceptance, that has been powerful for me. Using clarity as, or the absence of clarity as a possible blockage into my future. And definitely the healing from chaos situation. That's what resonated the most. Like getting to see that I have always been striving in chaos all the time. And that's why I feel like I need something else now. And the fog that I see is because there's no chaos, there's no fire to put down. And I'm in a place of peace, but I'm not totally comfortable with the peace I'm feeling. So then I cannot create more.
Correct. Yeah. Beautifully, beautifully said. And I'm so glad that those are the takeaways, because that's like, even if I'm looking through my notes, that's exactly the highlights that I see. So yeah, I mean, again, thank you very much for allowing yourself to be witness in this space, to, step into kind of the fire and the discomfort of being witnessed in this way. So A, I commend you for that. And then B, yeah, just feel free to close us off and let everybody know where they can find you, who's the best person to find you. Floor is yours for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. It's been a beautiful session. I mean, every session in coaching is different. And as a coach myself, I really appreciate the work that coaches do to bring each other further. So that's actually what I do. So as coaching goes as my new step in my career, actually, I might add up that maybe that's the scary part. of it, like bringing it to life. So, but I have a blog of my own. I have my own podcast, which I have ralentized in the past weeks because out of lack of clarity. But I have everything in my social media, my blogging, and my podcast are all about trying to overcome these things together. Talking about them, being open about them, and making people more aware that they're tools to overcome these things and live your best life possible.
Beautiful. And where can people find you?
It's leannlopez.com. That's my blog and my coaching page. And my Instagram is Leanne Lopez W. So there's a mix in there about the wine company and the coaching business. And my LinkedIn, Leanne Lopez also. So there you can find me and see if anything resonates with any of you. And if my lack of clarity also resonates, and we can help each other out.
Beautiful. So yeah, as always, we'll include that in the show notes. Leanne, thank you very much for coming on. And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much.